David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you a pen from Retro 51, and that pen is the P-51 Mustang version of their Tornado model. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this P-51 model, talk about what I care for, what I don't care for. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. And stay tuned because I will be giving this pen away courtesy of the good folks over at Retro 51 who were kind enough to send me this pen for review and to give away to one of you. Retro 51 is a company which was founded back in 1990 and is based out of Richardson, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas. The 51 in the company name refers to the year 1951, which is the year the founder of the company, George Kartosis, was born. The philosophy of the company is that they believe a pen is not just a pen, that it's a way of showing who you are. The company produces a large number of ballpoints, mechanical pencils, and roller balls, as well as fountain pens. The vast majority of their pens have some kind of theme, and they're coming out with new models on a regular basis. They recently just came out with a hockey-themed pen called Stan. There's a lot of collectors out there who love Retro 51 pens, and it's easy to see why. So let's take a closer look at the model that I received. The pen arrives in this tube. I like this unique packaging. On the label here, there are a couple of pictures of P-51 Mustangs, and then even at the bottom here, it says their company motto, which is, "Life is too short to carry an ugly pen." Isn't that the truth? The top pops off, and inside we have the pen. There's also in here, there is a use and care guide as well as a couple of cartridges. And this right here is the Retro 51 Tornado P-51 Mustang. Retro 51 had previously released another vintage World War II fighter plane themed pen called the Flying Tiger. Virtually all of this pen is made from metal, and while I wouldn't describe the pen as light, the metal doesn't really overly weigh down this pen either. And the markings on here are a combination of acid etching and printing used to recreate a classic World War II plane. And then the trim is stonewashed to give it kind of an antique silver look. For most of Retro 51 models, the pens are virtually the same, and it's like the paint job that's different, or the theme. And that's really not the case with this pen. There's a lot of features of this pen that I'll show you which are stamped into the metal exterior. And having these features actually stamped into the metal gives them a bit more depth and adds some more realism to the design. This pen is modeled after the P-51 Mustang. The P-51 was considered to be one of the best fighter planes utilized by the United States military during World War II, mainly due to the power and speed and extended range of the aircraft. The main purpose of the fighter plane was to escort Allied bombers and protect them from the powerful German Luftwaffe. The plane could actually fly up to 400 miles an hour and had external gas tanks that could be used on extended missions. And then they would drop those away when they're empty. And then also it was armed with 6 .50 caliber machine guns. This airplane here is located at the San Diego Air and Space Museum. My dad actually is retired and volunteers at the museum with a whole other team of folks. They repair and reconstruct and reproduce airplanes for museums across the country. Now, this P-51 is a functioning aircraft, but some of the times the planes you see in museums might have been in a state of disrepair, so missing parts need to be built from scratch, or the aircraft could have been an extremely well-built replica with incredible attention to historical accuracy and detail. I visited the shop before, and it's interesting to see the creativity and ingenuity used to reproduce parts for aircraft that haven't been in production for almost 80 years. Okay, let's take a look at this pen, and we'll start with the cap. On the top of the cap, it has a black and yellow checkered pattern, which is a pattern commonly seen on World War II fighters. Then we have a distinctive knurled finial. Now, on the Retro 51 ballpoints, this piece actually extends a little bit further, and it twists to extend and retract the pen. But on the fountain pen, this piece is a little bit more ornamental, or it is ornamental. Underneath the knurling is a band which says Tornado by Retro 51. I'd like here that the lettering is filled with black lacquer. It's really hard to see that with the naked eye, or at least it is for me, but I think it's a nice touch. Then we have a red band that extends into a yellow and red checkerboard pattern, which is a pattern typically found on the nose of a P-51 airplane directly behind the propeller. Then we have the metal clip. It's bowed, and it has an upward flare on the end of it to help it easily slide in and out of pockets of thin or thick material. Under the clip, there's actually a blue stripe, and then the design running down either side of the cap represents the engine exhaust pipes. The cap also has these indentations and lines to represent the metal panels and rivets found on the exterior of a P-51 Mustang. There is no cap band per se, but there is a small round section here to kind of aesthetically break things up a little bit. There is a small step down to the barrel where the rivet panel motif continues. On both sides, there is the star representing the U.S. Army Air Corps and 51 for the P-51. Something small which is easily overlooked is this right here. It says 477BG, which stands for the 477th Bombardment Group. This group is best known for being the home of the famous Tuskegee Airmen. The Tuskegee Airmen were actually the first African-American military aviators in the U.S. Army Air Corps, which was the precursor to what became the U.S. Air Force. The history of these men is important, and I don't want to trivialize it by glossing over it, but essentially their performance and heroism in battle helped encourage the eventual integration of the United States Armed Forces. The Tuskegee Airmen flew a number of different fighter aircrafts, but they're most closely associated with this P-51 Mustang. There is another red band at the end of the barrel, which actually represents the famous red tails of the Tuskegee Airmen that they had on their planes. I like how the paint on this barrel, as well as some of the areas of the cap, are kind of purpose-worn. It just gives the pen a bit more character. The end of the barrel is slightly rounded along the edges and flat on the top. The cap unscrews, and I will say I've experienced a bit of cross-threading with this cap. It seems like the threads are really not that forgiving. If you have everything aligned straight when you cap, then it operates just fine, but if it's angled just a little bit off, then it has a tendency to cross-thread. On the pen is a Jowo No. 6 steel nib. It is available in extra fine, fine, medium, and 1.1 stub, which is what I have here. I'll show you during the writing sample, but I am very fond of this stub nib. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section is lacquered brass. It's slightly concave, and I don't find it to be slick at all. The section transitions into the metal threads, and then there's a medium-sized step up to the barrel. I do find this pen plenty long enough to use unposted, and I do find it to be very comfortable in my hand. The pen does post, but I wouldn't categorize it as overly secure. I mean, it's not going to just drop off, but if you bump it a little bit, it can be easily dislodged. One thing I do like about this pen, though, is the alignment of all of the rivets. That whenever you cap this pen, the rivets align with the cap and the barrel, which is a nice attention to detail. This is a cartridge converter pen. A couple of cartridges are provided, and a standard international converter comes with the pen as well. Since just about every part of this pen is metal, it would not be advisable to use this pen as an eyedropper. The retail price for the Retro 51 Tornado P-51 Mustang is around $63, and it's available from a wide number of retailers. I actually feel that $63 is a fair price for this pen. It's unique, it has a ton of symbolism, which I really like, and I think it just looks pretty cool. I think it has a lot going for it. I'm not big into airplanes or military history, but I can appreciate what the pen represents. If you're someone who's into those things, then I think this would be a pen that you would need to get your hands on. As with most of the Retro 51 themed models, these are produced in limited quantities, and once they're gone, it's rare that models return. So if you're interested in this pen, I would suggest taking action sooner rather than later. These are, like I mentioned before, available at a wide variety of retailers. Thanks again go out to Retro51 for providing this pen for review and for giveaway. In regard to the giveaway, in order to enter, all you need to do is be a subscriber to this channel and leave a comment here on YouTube. If you're a Patreon supporter, I greatly appreciate your continued support, and you can alternatively leave your comment there. In regard to a comment topic, Retro51 is continually coming out with new and creatively themed designs. If you could design your own Retro51 pen, what theme would you want it to have? The comment topic is not required, it is just a suggestion. 72 hours after the posting of this video, I will randomly select a winner from the folks who commented. Good luck to each of you. So now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Retro51 Tornado P-51 Mustang. Here it is with a Pilot Kakuno. Then here it is with a Kaweco Skyline Sport. And then here it is with a Pilot Metro, or an MR, depending on what part of the world you're in. Then in regard to some pens that you might just see in the very near future in reviews, here we have a Pineider Avatar. Then here we have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Magma. And then finally, something very special that I just received is this Wancher. We'll call it a Wancher / Sailor because it was distributed by Wancher but made by Sailor in partnership with Sailor. And this is called the Japan Blue, which essentially is almost a Pro Gear, but it's a little bit different. And it has a metal exterior that has been hammered. And it's just an amazing looking pen. And I'll be looking forward to taking a closer look at that in the near future, and that is what it looks like in regard to a comparison of the P-51. So here we go with the writing sample for the Retro51, and this is the Tornado, and this is the P-51 Mustang. This is a 1.1 nib, and the ink that I'm using today is Lamy Petrol. This is what the ink looks like. It's kind of a green-blue, and it was a limited edition ink from a couple of years back. I don't know how available it is now. I think it is all sold out, and so it's very difficult to find, but I do like this ink a great deal, and I thought it kind of went well with the kind of machine aspect of this airplane. This is what the ink looks like in regard to something like the Ackerman Blaugrün, as well as something like the Sailor Yamidori. It's a little bit darker, but with both of those, but it's still very nice. This is what Lamy's bottles look like. I like Lamy's bottles a lot. It holds 50 milliliters, and then it's something that I think is nice that I really never use that much is that with the Lamy ink bottles, they include some blotters here so that you can blot off your nib. It's one of those things where I always use a tissue or something like that, and it's like I never want these to run out. So I rarely use them, but I kind of like that they're there, if that makes sense. So here we go with the rest of the writing sample. When I first started off with fountain pens, I really only stuck to medium nibs. It was because I knew I liked medium nibs, and it was something that was like my comfort zone, and it took me a long time to to get away from using medium nibs. And I've started using a lot more fines and stubs and things like that, and I'm really glad that I've expanded my horizons. Because a pen like this is a Yovo nib, but this 1.1 is fantastic. I love using it. I love how it makes my handwriting look. The ink flow on this nib is fantastic. You know, you really don't, doing any reverse writing with a 1.1 or a stub isn't necessarily what it's used for, but we'll do it anyways. And in regard to some fast writing, there's no issue at all. That I haven't had any issue with the flow of this nib at all. So I encourage everyone to enter to win this, like I said, courtesy of Retro 51, and that I feel that whoever is going to end up winning this will enjoy it, because this is one of those pens that I'm actually going to regret having to give up, because I love the way this 1.1 performs, and I think it's just a cool, unique looking pen. So who knows? I might need to actually pick one of these up on my own. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.